continue meeting tonight with the police department report. Chief?
Thank you very much. You have my report from this month. I'll hit a couple of the highlights. We're in the first wave of the speed detail going on. We were granted $4,400 for that. One detail was completed on North 6th Street in Denver, and about 8 more to follow. I went along with Sergeant Progen to a police expo in Atlantic City, New Jersey that highlighted a lot of new technologies, and a lot of vendors were there, and we learned a lot and came back with some pretty good ideas for different things. So that was very informative. National Night Out is going to be August 7th. I think we have a meeting before that, but I just wanted to bring it up now and potentially again at the Reamstown Park from 6 to 9 p.m. I received a scope of work for the info share from CSI in reference to the records management system. I gave it a quick look through, found a couple items where I need to talk to the gentleman, and then I'm going to go through it again in detail, looking that over. Nothing stood out to me as being preventative from moving forward, but I want to spend a little more time with it. And we had a meeting, I would call it productive, with the school district. Scott was in attendance, Dr. Musser, the business manager for the school district, and Mike Hession, the manager from Denver Borough. That took place yesterday. We talked about the special police and crossing guards, excuse me, and it came to some, I would call them agreements. We just started the process, but I think we have a different agency in Denver Borough that will take over the fire police duties in reference to traffic and parking that we talked about, and remove the whole security part from the special police. I won't go into detail about who or what, because they need to talk to the executive committee, but I know it's been done in other townships and boroughs, so they initially didn't see a problem with it, but I want to give them a chance to discuss that amongst themselves. We had a good discussion on the crossing guards, and it was brought up that, in my opinion and others, that it would be best if the school district would start busing all the students to school instead of having walkers, which would then in turn alleviate the need for crossing guards. I talked to Dave Lutz twice, transportation director for the high school, or for the school district, I'm sorry. And we had a really good conversation of their letters go out, because the school, starting so early this year, their letters are going out next week for transportation. So to do it this year in reference to the crossing guards, to put it onto Denver Borough's shoulder or to the school district, neither were very interested in taking on the crossing guards. So we're still in discussions, but I think if we're only going to have crossing guards doing that for another year, that we could potentially look at setting things up in a different manner and having the crossing guards stay with East Cocalico for 1 more year, as long as the solicitor says it's okay, and the school district is willing to pay for a rider to the insurance policy if that's necessary. They would pick that up. So we removed I believe we removed the issue of the security, maybe with a little bit of lack of training from the special police, but they're 2 separate issues. So I think we resolved that issue, and we're working on the crossing guard issue. Hopefully have a resolution soon on that. We are looking to, and I think we're very much in favor of changing the design on the car. Did you get that email? Design on the side of the car. I know when we went to the little black stripe on the side previously, we did that in a cost-saving manner. When we were in Atlantic City, we saw a car. They had numerous different kind of cars. There were different logos and that type of thing, and we saw one that really kind of stood out to us. So this is what it would look like. It's going to say Township after the word Cocalico. So it's black lettering surrounded in white with a blue. The blue is going to be the same shade as the blue in the symbol or the yeah. And then the back of it is gonna be a little bit different. Did you get that other picture? Then it's on here, I'll quick point out what's the difference. We're gonna move the 911 over so it's centered, and we're gonna put that patch down here so it's not so busy up there. So Sergeant Projan talked to one of the people at Eckerd Signs, and they said if we get reflective and make it reflective, it's going to cost more. But if we stay with non-reflective, which I would prefer in that regard, that it would be very similar in price to what we do now.
What's the key difference you're doing there? It's the highlighting around?
Yeah,
the
the word police is much bigger, and it's showing either saying East Cocalico Township right on there instead of just having the big covered bridge patch right on the side door. So we're making that a little smaller, but adding one to the back, and just trying to come up with a design that's a little more modern, and we see that quite a bit overall, so.
And the community first on those will go where, in the back of the car?
On the back, right near the
The quarter panel?
right.
Okay.
What was the price difference between the reflective and?
I'm not sure. I don't know that for a fact. He just said it would be more, so I was kind of shying away from that a little bit.
Would this be a new cruiser?
That will be on the new cruiser that is being delivered on Monday afternoon.
Oh, okay.
So I was thinking, since we're in the process of getting the new one, we would start with that one and start with a new design.
Sounds good.
Do we need a cruiser?
I don't think we need to.
You're spending money.
Right, it's up to you, but realistically, you're spending the budget.
That's true.
Same
That's
It's a
exact
budget
one.
item. Yeah, so it's
Okay.
within your budget.
It's for the outfitting of the car, it's covered under that, which we do for every car, so.
Yeah, I know that.
Again, I'm just,
Okay.
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 and last, I was wondering if you all came to a decision on the corporals. I'd like to start that process in reference to promoting the 4 corporals to cover each shift that we have.
My recommendation right now, based on the conversation we just had earlier, is I think we need to table that. We just had an executive session. We need to hold off on that, in my opinion, at this
No,
point.
I would agree. I would agree.
We gotta look at some more numbers strategically in terms of that, those 4-year forecasts at this point. Okay.
In reference to the strategic part on the budget that I came up with previously, that was my wish list. That was the 4-year projection off of what I asked for in reference to the police department. My officers are not aware of what I asked for. It's not that I'm hiding it, it's just that they have other things to do. And that part is my job. So if there are questions on that, I would prefer that they're asking me and not my officers, just so we're aware, because again, they don't have those answers.
Yeah, of course.
So, you know, if there's anybody that has a question from the public or anywhere else, it would probably be best suited to me. And again, just because it's on that 4-year projection doesn't mean that it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's a forecast.
It's
Right.
called a projection.
It's a working forecast.
Right. Thank you.
Quick question for you, Chief. The new signs in.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we were
looks
gonna
good.
bring that up in old business, but the new signs are in. We're working on the electrical part of it. I think when they go sign up out on 272, they realize that, I mean, it's been a while since that's been looked at, so there's an issue with the electric there, but we can work on that and get that functioning. So, and I think the power's coming off the billboard, so
Yes, it is.
maybe another line has to be run or something.
I think Tony can go out there and just start grabbing things and see
Put
what.
that together.
Been there, done that, yes.
It
It sounds like probably gonna have, I don't know who we are, research it or check it out, I know Peters and Sons works, but it's totally up to you guys. Tyler,
Because
yeah.
Peter's only by himself.
Yeah, that sign down there at the entrance is nice, because it's, I mean, even when I start coming down the hill there, you can see it very clearly. It
And
stands out.
I hope that alleviates, you know, people coming in upstairs and you guys having to redirect them, so they should be able to see that they come around the back or the lower entrance, they should be able to find us very easy, so. All right.
Okay. Any questions of the chief?
Yes, Chief, if I may, what's the percentage of total department calls that come from Denver Borough? On a yearly basis, just a rough estimate.
Calls for service for June or for the entire year. Year to date, we are at 4,466 calls for service for East Cocalico and 1,407 for Denver. 1,400 cases generated, 1,413, and 589 for Denver Borough. So.
Quite a disparity from calls versus cases.
Well, that's the whole thing where a call for service could be a barking dog, where nothing happens out of it. A case generated is if something comes out of it, you know, neighbor dispute, somebody gets cited or something like that. So that is a generalized description of what we do every day. But it's definitely not, the call for service encompasses everything.
So they're generating about 1/3 of the cases, but probably less than 25% of the calls, judging by those numbers.
Somewhere in there.
This year,
Today.
Today, yeah.
today. Okay, thank you. The other thing, everybody was talking about the traffic jam Saturday. I guess your officers were dispatched to that for a point in time, or was that?
The one officer, the shift supervisor, made contact with the foreman that's working on the project. They immediately called Flagler Force. When Flagler Force came out, they turned the lights on flash at 272 in Denver Road or Colonel Howard Boulevard, and they were there pretty much through the weekend. Basically, when you shut a major highway down, you're going to have a traffic problem. We did not stand out there the entire time by any means. We try to get the situation as best under control, but there's going to be, and it's going to happen again this weekend. It's going to be tremendous, you know, amount of traffic coming off 222, funneling onto 272 with numerous lights. So they did the best that they could, but I guess if you're fixing a bridge, there's not a whole lot else you can do there. So.
What, did they have Flagler Force on call, or was it just an emergency call to them to get
I'm
out
not
there?
sure. That was a decision made by the foreman on the project. So I don't know if he had to call somebody at PennDOT or how they worked that out, but I think their response was within an hour, so that was convenient.
I'm just curious if it was a surprise to all of them, or whether they were planning ahead for that.
A surprise to Flagler Force or to the others?
To the project manager.
I'd be surprised if anybody was surprised at the amount of traffic. I mean, you have thousands of cars going down 222. Maybe they thought on a weekend it would be less, but it definitely wasn't, so.
Thank you.
Sure.
Ryan?
Well, just to piggyback on that, that's where I was headed. I seen the two officers at the light when that whole thing was going on, and just if any extra officers got brought on, or if there's any extra costs occurred from all that. And of course, it couldn't have been any worse. It was Super Chevy Sunday. It was, Denver Road was shut down. So again, we all know it's going to happen this weekend. Was there anything, and maybe Scott can, anything brought up from what anybody learned last weekend that can maybe alleviate some of it this weekend, or?
I mean, we're closing down that major interstate. I mean,
Yeah.
you're not putting it onto a 2-lane roadway, it's not designed for 4-lane roadway traffic.
I came down 22 today from Berks County and saw they have a small sign up saying it's going to be closed, but when you're going past there, I'm wondering how many people are actually seeing it, but I think they're doing what's required of them to do it, but.
Right.
And they've had that digi sign up for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, they've had it up 2 weeks, yeah.
Did they get the new LED sign up and running on 222, the large one? I think it's like the one that, I think it's
test mode for.
Yeah, that one, I don't know what the deal with that is in our area. I know down
And you guys
towards
understand,
Browns.
that is right around the interchange direction owned by the turnpike.
Right.
No, right.
So
Yeah,
therefore
I don't know why
turnpike
it's
closures.
not- yeah, so, they do have the one down in Brownstown that shows the travel time to 422
And the turn.
and.
No, I was just asking because maybe, you know, between now and the weekend, I doubt you can do it in time, but whoever has that sign, maybe they say, you know, high congestion this weekend, road closed.
I'm
Yeah,
not
there's-
sure what, I don't know that there's any other alternatives besides
No,
272.
No.
And there's another event back at Maple Grove this weekend.
Right.
Put a note out that Lancaster County is closed.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, good, that'll do you.
I know.
Gotta
Adams-
stop traffic.
You know, I mean, I seen them cutting through Adamstown Borough. I mean, they were
Main
going
Street was
up past the
so-
elementary school, they were going 897, they were,
I mean,
every nook and cranny.
realistically, I'm sure they're gonna have fire force on the.
Yes,
scene
they're gonna be
immediately.
there again, we're putting the
And
lights
I
on
don't see
flash.
what else you could do differently when you're closing down the interstate at this point.
Don't go that way this weekend.
Yeah,
Stay away.
avoid it.
Go around.
They never closed the gateway to Lancaster County.
Okay, thank you, Chief. I skipped something, let's go back to it. Approval of minutes for past meeting dated June 21st. Any additions or corrections to the minutes?
No.
Make a motion, we accept the minutes as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Tony, zoning officers report.
Yes, good evening, everybody. You should have a copy of my report for the month of June. I'll keep it short and sweet. Another busy month, 32 applications, 32 permits issued, 17 reviewed, 15 for pickup. 30 certificates of occupancy were issued for that time period. Also, loan violations were down, we only had 2. I did have a zoning hearing for a special exception in July. And that case was granted with conditions. Mr. Shalacy wanted to conduct a small architect office out of his home. He was approved for a home occupation. And the second item was, we have a new case for month of August. The board is familiar with the property on Smokestown Road, Brenda Hinton property back there. She used to own that. Gentleman, Mr. Keith, we purchased it and we want to put a house on that property. And for the board knows, there's a creek runs right through the center of that property. He's got to come before zoning hearing board for a special exception to cross that creek. Lancaster County Conservation District and the Township Engineer is involved in that plan. Under code enforcement, just highlight a couple of things. 2170 North Reading Road, the old Black Horse Restaurant, for instance, did some work there at the property out on the deck without some permitting. I'm happy to say all the permit applications were received and the permits were issued. Everybody is compliant there. We had an issue several weeks back with 580 Hill Road, a brand new residence installed on a virgin piece of property there. They happened to install a beautiful mailbox made out of stacked stone with foundation and all in the township right away. Had asked them to move it, they graciously complied, and it is now compliant. Our snowplows will not hit that mailbox as far as I'm concerned. Under other items, I'm really pleased to say all of the hard work that Arlene Krause has done, my assistant in the office, has paid off with the census, the 2020 census. Our office was in charge of getting all of that information together, correlating it, installing it in a system, and getting it submitted to the Census Bureau. And they did accept all of the information we put down, so we are done with the census for the next year, which is great. We had a deadline and we met that deadline. Let's see, one other thing. 421 Wabash Road, we're all familiar with that. The Wabash Landing project is going on as we speak. I've had a couple of complaints here concerning dust from the construction vehicles in the dry weather that we've been having. The township manager and myself have been involved in speaking with the developer. They graciously had brought a water truck out on site to use it various times during the week. It's tough for the people in the trailer park because this work is being done around their facility and there's no escaping it, especially when it's dry. Let's see what else. One item that I want to add, well, it's on the bottom of the list. I do have, well, before I get into that, just give you a tally on the number of new homes for the year. We have 21 new single-family homes built to date so far, and we're only in August, July, I should say. 4 townhomes and 1 mobile home. We normally average 1 a month, okay, so we're well above that. 14 of those homes were done by landmark development. You know, they're the ones finishing up Stony Point and Morganshire. So we are, the economy seems to be good, strong, and people are building the homes of their dreams, and they, seems like they want to be in East Cocalico, so that's a good thing. The next item I had really was just a copy of the invitation to the Business Leaders Forum. I have that for you to look at, if you're happy with that. I have spoken to Mr. Mike Weaver over at Weaver Markets. He's graciously going to allow us to use a meeting room down there for this Business Leaders meeting on the 28th of August, which is a Tuesday, scheduling in at 9 a.m., something, in the early morning hours up until lunchtime. And I will have these letters sent out with an RSVP date of the 20th, so at least we get a good idea of who we can expect. I have the mailing list done, Maureen has gotten that together, we've fine-tuned it, updated it. I've got over 200 names, which is surprising. Not so much to Arlene and I, because we deal with these people all the time, but that's quite a bit, quite a few business leaders in this community. So we'll see who shows up, and we want to keep it informal, informational, transfer ideas, that type of thing, keep it very loose and accommodating. And if the board is happy with that invitation, and we just have a small list of possible discussion items. This by no means is anything locked in stone. If you have something you'd like me to add, I'll be happy to do that. But at least we have some ideas out there that we can get some conversation started. Okay?
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I think it's great. Send it out, definitely.
Okay, I'd like to get them in the mail, if not sometime tomorrow, Monday morning, so at least they have some time to digest and check their schedules,
Right.
because we're about a month out.
Tony, as they call you, and just, I'm sure they're gonna call you, right?
Yes.
Just reiterate with them and confirm with them that, this is a focus group type setup. It's just you and them,
Right.
and none of the supervisors are there, because the whole idea is to get raw data
Right.
from them.
Right.
Good, accurate data.
Correct, yes.
Just to see what they think.
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely.
Any questions for the zoning officer? Thank you, Tony.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Roadmaster, Chris.
Good evening. In June, we finished the first round of mowing around the township. Today, we actually started the second round. While RC was away on vacation, we stuck in an asphalt maintenance solution patch truck. And we patched quite a few areas in the township. I think they did an excellent job. What they patched with that truck would have took us probably a full year to get around to. We patched the office here, the approach down around the turn here, Muddy Creek Church Road, Burners Grove, North Muddy Creek Road, Naperville, and of course RC's Quail Hollow development. The development was scary, taking a patch truck into a development. Mr. Russell was with me almost all morning. The neighbors came out, asked about it, we told them the options we have, and they approved it. We had one complaint in that development, and that was a former New Enterprise estimator. So, of course, he's gonna complain because that's a product he doesn't sell. Everything looked good. We had a sweeper truck come in a week after. I had a little problem with that. The truck I had lined up broke down 2 days prior, and we had it posted when that would be swept. So I scrambled and got a hold of Martin Paving. They loaned us a sweeper just to get that development done. And then 3 days later, the sweeper truck that we did have to do the whole township was available, so we sent him out doing all the developments. I look forward to using this truck a lot more. I mean, this was a trial run here on this truck, and it's worth it. The work it did, it has looked real good.
Can I make a comment as a resident? Just as a resident. It was kind of touch and go those first couple of days. But after about a week, week and a half, 2 weeks like now,
It's knitted.
it's actually settled in pretty well. So, again, just, that was a comment as a resident.
And it's,
Yeah, it seems to be working pretty well so far.
We're gonna be looking at doing this twice a year, so there's gonna be fall projects there. And part of the strategy is gonna be, in order for us to do residential streets for the next couple of years, we have to slow down the oil and chipping streets that we've been doing. And the town's done a very good job over the years of keeping its non-residential development streets very well maintained. We need to spend about the next 5 years in the residential streets. It means we gotta get 10 years now in our oil and chip streets that used to be every 5 years. The patch truck will allow us to get an extra 5 years of our oil and chip streets by just hitting the areas for the next 5 years on the oil and chip streets that become distressed with oil and chip patching. So that we can then put all the monies into our residential streets, and then we will get back and do another 5-year cycle with those oil and chip roads. So what we'll do in the fall is we'll hit a couple more of our oil and chip streets, just like we did with Naperville. And we'll also go in and we're gonna probably maybe tackle Old Homestead, or pick a development, that'd probably be one of them. We'll tackle Old Homestead or something similar with going in that residential development.
the road crew did a walkthrough inspection of Stony Point. We were out there checking all the storm drains and pipes, the manholes and stuff for that developer before dedication. We gave the list to Brent and Scott to look over. We made repairs to 2 developments. We had a call in 2 separate developments, one being East Cocalico Heights and the other one was Oak Lane. People thought it was a sinkhole. Basically, your specs many years ago were a little light, and what we're having is settlement around the sewer and water lines. So it's not really a sinkhole, but the road's sinking there. It wasn't compacted good enough. So we milled those spots out, repaired them. Looks great. I don't know if anybody noticed it. We had Martin's mulch in here at the brush pile just before Denver Road was started. We were given a number of 130 trucks of millings, possibly that would come off of Denver Road when the project started. We didn't get that amount of millings off the road. So the big dream stockpile that we had is not that large anymore. But we needed a place to put the millings. I mean, so we wanted to redo the leveling out here at the brush pile because that was a muddy mess. So we put roughly 20 loads of millings out here, and then we took the rest back to the shed, and the water authority took some for the well houses. I thought Martin's mulch did a good job. I mean, to come in right after the holidays and hop on that, get that out of the way. Now, at this point, we had to get a grader in. We could not push those millings. Those millings knitted that hard within 4 days that our loader and our backhoe or nothing, we could not make that a smooth area. So I had gotten a price from Reamstown Excavating, and it was a reasonable price to come in for a day, basically level it off. We're in the process of rolling it and filling the lane and making it nice. You have on the closure that you're closed till the 26th. It's a possibility we'll have that looking good before then, if you want to open it earlier. If not, that's fine by me also. New Enterprise did come in for Denver Road. They were working at night. They started on a Sunday night. We had very, very little complaints except for the flagging crew. Every now and then, one would send them around, and then when he got to the other end, that guy wouldn't let him go through. So there were a few of those complaints. I think the work that New Enterprise did on the road, it's extremely nice. That elevation around Bowman's for that turn it's beautiful. But I still predict there's going to be cars in that field because people still do not know how to drive in the winter. They're going to go downhill, get to that turn, brake at the last second, there they're going to go. But it should be half the amount, I'm hoping. Stewart and Tate came in last Friday, and we had them rally Mac. They rally Mac from Holtzman's four-way stop sign up over the hill down to the township line. I also had them repair there in front of the school. It's a good friction. It gives good friction to the road, makes the road nice and black. But any kind of cracking in the road after a year just comes through again. With Mr. Russell and myself, we're gonna look at alternate ways of doing road treatments other than a rally Mac. They did a good job. I was amazed because normally Stewart and Tate is a little messy, but everything turned out good. I got the lines painted yesterday on Holtzman Road. I have Alpha Space Control basically semi-scheduled to come in at the end of August. I still have oil and chip to be done by Stewart and Tate, so I'm hoping that Stewart and Tate gives me a call in the next couple of weeks to say that they're coming in. That way I don't have to pump all the township lines being painted back. I had Martin Paving in this week. We did a trial run through PennDOT of a bituminous seal coat trial aggregate. And what that is Martin's came in and did a oil and chip with a 1/2 inch stone and a 1/4 inch stone on top. It was a double application. Liquid Fuels does not honor 1/4 inch stone. So this is in the research with PennDOT, and 4 municipalities, I think, in Lancaster County did this. So PennDOT's going out, looking at it, and they're gonna, actually the inspector was here today. He's taken stone samples of the 1/4 inch from the quarries in this area, taking them to Penn State, where they're gonna research the stones, and they're gonna come up with a guideline on how to use 1/4 inch stone. They said possibly in a year, maybe 2, that will become Liquid Fuels stone then, instead of us having to pay that stone out of our general account. It was a very nice job, and the PennDOT resource officer did say if we're interested in doing it again next year, as long as the trial basis runs, he doesn't care who signs up to have a trial done on the road. So that's a possibility for next year. I have new enterprise scheduled for the 1st and 2nd week of August to start a widening on Buzzard and Indiandale roads. I still have 9 pipe to replace, so I'm hoping to get at least 1 or 2 of those pipes in before they show up. Once they show up, I will let the chief know, because basically those roads are gonna have to be closed. The equipment's too big and the road's too narrow. So that could create a little bit of a stress, but our low volume roads, we'll probably have 30 or 40 people on the roads in a day's time. So it shouldn't be too bad. I did get a letter from Lancaster County Conservation District for another grant. They want to be involved in the process of designing the road now. This grant that I won for these 2 roads I widened, I basically picked what we were doing, had Scott look it over, and we went with that. Now Lancaster wants to be involved in it. They want to help try and bring, I guess, more of their methods into the townships to award the grants, to which I have one lined up for already this year for Poplar, to try and get them in. So I will contact them. Hopefully we can get another grant. Other than that, we've been busy with keeping the parks and everything mowed, picking up trash, and picking up signs that get knocked over. That's all I have.
Just want to comment on one thing. I mean, I really, Chris knows I kind of stressed him out over the last month and a half with what we put on the workload for this month, with all the different paving projects all going on. And I think you guys did a real good job. You got a good usage out of your road crew in the last month. There was no wasted effort or wasted time. It was all top priority heavy on the pavement, heavy on the storm drainage type work, which is the best use for a road crew. And so, and Chris ran with the punches because a couple of those paving jobs weren't planned, like the Martin's one wasn't planned. All of a sudden they're saying, we're giving you 3 hours notice, we're coming with the oil and chip truck, and he had to go out there and basically de-weed the street with very short notice. And then Stewart and Tate was also very little notice, and they already had the Denver paving job going on, which was all hands on deck at that point. So there's a lot of rolling with the punches, and I was really proud of the guys. And they got to see a lot of my time too, given how much and how important some of these paving jobs were.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, express to your team a big thank you for that. And thank you for not taking out any mailboxes in Quail Hollow.
The great thing with that oil and chip RC is it's gonna add traction, so they won't slide into them.
Yeah, right.
Any
It was
questions?
60 instead of 50, right?
Any questions of the road master?
Yes, Mr.
You
Flory.
remembered it?
No. Penn State is studying stone.
Yes, they are.
Really?
They're getting stoned.
Well, I look at it this way, it's almost better if Penn State studies it than Penn Dot.
Right.
Are they looking for work that hard that they are studying stone?
They want to get stoned.
Well, it's all geography, and limestone in this area could be a different hardness than limestone in Shippensburg, and, you know, when they sign on this, that they're gonna allow a 1/4-inch stone to be in a liquid fuel, they wanna make sure they're getting what's supposed to be there. I understand what you're saying, Jeff, it sounds ludicrous, but that's why you do it.
The biggest issue, and Crystal knows this too, is we're going to plow differently over the 1/4-inch stone streets. So, because the metal plows will, that's what PennDOT thinks is going to happen. That's what they're looking at these streets is that 1/4-inch stone is going to get peeled up by a metal plow. So that means we're going to have to plow this a little bit differently and use the rubberized on there. So it does change the way we do business too as a township for those specific streets.
And I just want to add one thing. I was down here at the township today, and I went out back, and saw Greentown excavating, and those millions, I can't believe how that stuff packs down. I drove my truck up there, and it was almost like driving on a roadway. I mean, that stuff packs down. When you get out and walk on it, it's tacking. You can feel the tackiness on your feet. And the guy said, I got a 12,000-pound piece of equipment, and I can't even dent this stuff.
Now, he actually, when he got out there yesterday to start working on it, and he tried to push it, he basically couldn't disturb it.
Right.
He wound up just running around the thing and spinning on the millings at first to get them loose to start grading. I did witness a lady drop off cardboard, which is the farthest dumpster up there on the lane, and she basically wasn't moving her car and she was turning her wheels. And you could just see a little bit of grinding where she was turning the wheels without the car moving. So that knitted that hard in just a day's time.
And that's why we kept it, because it's going to make good trail material.
Right.
I mean, now you guys have all seen what the buildings do. It is almost like pavement when it's all said and done.
That being said, Mr. Russell, did you not create a large impervious surface up there at the wood pile now?
DEP does not look any differently from what we had there in the past than what we put down now.
Right.
It's the same impervious.
So in the past, the water would infiltrate and now it will run off.
DEP looks at gravel and those type of materials as an impervious surface.
And once it's packed down and driven on, it sheet flows water just like anything else.
They'll differentiate between gravel and bituminous.
I asked that same question.
We'll see when the water needs to find a place to get off to. I'm just saying, when that residents do that kind of thing, all of a sudden stormwater management needs to be put in place.
Well, it does, but we're not treating ourselves any differently than anybody else. We treat stormwater management, someone puts down a gravel parking area, they gotta use stormwater management. If they overlay a gravel parking lot area that's already been approved, there's no stormwater management. So it's the same standard.
Okay. The treasurer's report. Authorize the list of bills. Bill?
Have a list of bills.
Let's see it.
And we got a total general fund of $141,948.77. Total state fund of $2,680.91. Total Denver Road Project State Fund of $835.57. A total light fund of $14,430.26. And a total hydrant fund of $14,670. Questions?
Mr. Fry, I see here's another bill on the Freightliner truck. I thought last month we talked about that and they were all,
No, it's not a bill. That's the amount that they didn't pay, and now they've ponied up, and that was the extra $3,000 damage that was not covered under the first check. We talked about that the last meeting, we knew that was gonna happen. So this makes it paid 100%.
so it was the previous amount
Plus
plus
this,
this
that
amount.
is correct.
Yep.
I see. Right above that, there's a tax payment on 1925 Reading Road. I take that that's school taxes.
Yes, sir.
Why are we paying that before the end of August at the end of the discount period?
Gotta pay it sometime.
Well, money in the bank is money in the bank until you have to spend it. I normally wait until the end of August, the discount period. I gain interest on it in my account. Why wouldn't the township look at it similarly?
I can't answer that question, Jeff, but I will look into that. I don't know.
We're paying interest on a lot of different accounts.
How much money do you think we could make on $5,000? Tell me, 30 cents, 40 cents?
It's.
I'm just stating, we're not talking hundreds of dollars.
No, we are not.
No.
Absolutely, we are not.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mackley, I will throw one thing that you'll be getting an email that Liz had prepared about a week and a half ago. We did get quotes from a couple different banks for looking how we are going to invest our existing funds. Right now, to be honest with you, part of my friends, we get nothing but crap for an interest rate. We have the opportunity of receiving roughly about 1.5%, and in certain situations, almost 2% with different investment banking mechanisms. I just have not had a chance to share that with you, given that we're doing the pension stuff, but there is actually a plan to kind of get a better rate of return. We're looking at, in particular, the UGI Get Gas money, since we know we're not touching that for another 10 years, putting that into some long-term CDs. And then some of the shorter ones, putting in one receipts, like a traffic impact fee fund that we know we don't make planned projects for, we might as well get a good year's worth of interest from that.
Well, I would also probably suggest that we not only look at banks, but credit unions. They seem to be paying better than a bank.
Well, yeah, when we get into the pension discussion, our pension provider also has the opportunity to invest in other types of funds besides just the pension, which is not something that we would have had the case in the past to the principal. So we're going to have some opportunities to look at other investment mechanisms that are still rather conservative.
Thank you, Scott.
So that would be a new pension provider, not the old one?
I'll wait for that one tonight, or that's later on in the agenda.
Brian?
Question on the goods disposal service. Why is there such a variation between the township, the highway, and the pool?
Where are you at here?
Second page, about the,
It's the amount of dumpsters, the size of them and the amount of them.
okay,
But
thank
I
you.
asked that same question.
Yeah,
It's the
I guess I'm just thinking too much of a
size of the
residential. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Fry, diving board?
Yep.
What happened?
It's 8 years old, fatigue.
Somebody too large to get around or something?
No, not really, he wasn't too large. No, one of the,
Wasn't me.
no, he wasn't too large. Maybe a little ferocious way they dive, but it was 8 years old, they do fatigue.
They do fatigue.
They do fatigue.
think the important part there is nobody got
Nobody
hurt.
got hurt, that's
Yeah,
right.
There's no liability claim. When
Did it
that
just,
broke.
It cracked, it cracked.
didn't go in 2 pieces?
No, it didn't go in 2 pieces, it had an airline crack, which it deflected further than it should. So we taped it off.
And you can get them quickly?
No,
That'd be made.
they gotta be custom made, and the first one got damaged in shipment, which came in last Friday, so I'm still waiting for a diving board.
Oh,
That one was sent back, and the manufacturer's making another one, and I haven't got an email of the tracking number yet.
I was gonna say, I've gone through Paul B's hardware store quite often, but I haven't found the diving board aisle.
No. And the manufacturer doesn't sell direct either, so you gotta go through a vendor.
Did you check A.B. Martin Roofing?
Don't do that.
Any other questions? I'll make a motion to pay the bills as presented.
I'll second the motion. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Land planning.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'll be playing the Brent Lee role tonight. The first thing you have is Mount Zion Baptist Church. I can say this plan has been progressing very well. They're very actively pushing the project from a design perspective. There's been a number of on-site meetings and technical reviews. But in order to keep this process moving, we are going to need a 90-day time extension. So the motion is to accept the 90-day time extension offer as submitted by the applicant's consultant dated July 17, 2018, which will extend the deadline for action on the Mount Zion Baptist Church preliminary land development plan until October 27, 2018.
Is anybody here representing a plan?
I didn't anticipate anybody here.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second the motion. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next one is for the Crier Track, is a stormwater management plan, and this is to go through the condition approval. The first item is to authorize, I got my project mixed up, Jared Weaver's conditional approval. This one is just a financial security reduction, and the motion is to authorize an $8,784 reduction in financial security being held by the township related to the Crier Stormwater Management Plan, resulting in $2,000 remaining in the security amount which will be held by the township and released after the remaining project items are addressed to the satisfaction of the township zoning officer and township engineer. The contractor for that project is aware of the remaining items that need to be taken care of. This is really just a more mere formality at this point. The project is close to completion.
There's nobody here.
They're minor items.
Is anybody here representing that project? Okay, I'll make a motion. We authorize reduction of financial security.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay. Now, Mr. Chair, this is a bunch of motions for plan approval. This is for Jared Weaver's stormwater management plan. The project is located at 2595 Owensville Road, and it's basically part of a proposed construction of a single-family dwelling and driveway on a 33.5-acre property. The motions, first off, the first two motions are waiver requests. The first motion is to approve a waiver modification of section 185-14B4 related to locating and depicting physical features within 200 feet of the subject tract to relieve the applicant from showing additional information beyond what is currently shown on the plans and necessary to address outstanding review comments. So basically, we're not requiring the person to topographically survey 35 acres.
Is anybody here representing the plan? No? Okay. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
The second waiver is related to side slopes. Motions to approve a waiver modification of section 185-27A1D related to side slopes within swales to authorize the use of 2-to-1 side slopes within the driveway swale to reduce the required impact to the existing living areas. So this is kind of waiving erosion versus taking a whole slew of additional trees out. It is a forest area, and Becker's recommending approval of this waiver modification.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay, next now we're going to the approval steps. The next motion is conditionally approve the stormwater management plan for the Jared Weaver track at 2395 Bowmansville Road, conditioned upon the applicant addressing all items outlined in the Becker Engineering review letter dated July 9th, 2018 to the satisfaction of the township zoning officer, township engineer, and township solicitor.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next motion is to authorize the Board of Supervisors to sign an improvement guarantee agreement for a stormwater management plan for the Jared Weaver track at 2395 Bowman Road. When signed by the applicant and provided in a form acceptable to the township and township solicitor, along with the required financial security in an amount acceptable to the township engineer and in a form acceptable to the township solicitor.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next motion is to authorize the Board of Supervisors to sign the stormwater maintenance and easement agreement related to the stormwater management plan for the Jared Weaver track at 2395 Bowmansville Road, when executed by the applicant and submitted to the township in a form acceptable to the township solicitor.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
The final motion is to authorize signature of the stormwater management plan for the Jared Weaver track at 2395 Bowmansville Road by the Board of Supervisors upon the applicant adequately resolving all conditions of plan approval to the satisfaction of the township zoning officer, township engineer, and township solicitor.
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Now, Mr. Chair, I do have one last minute ad that came in. I didn't remind, but I remember. I have one last minute ad that came in this afternoon. I would ask for the board's consideration on. Members First is in the process of developing a bank in the front of Denver, Colonel Howard and 272, in front of the Comfort Inn. Their project has been progressing in a really nice manner, and I think we're going to have a really nice project there. They submitted a sewage module, and there were some little hiccups on the authority side and between them and the engineer. An engineer for Members First made some mistakes in the application. It got corrected today. I'm just requesting a motion to authorize the chairman to execute the sewage module for Members First. So that would be the motion if you would entertain that.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Ordinance 2018-02. It was advertised in the effort to review July 19th. No, July 4th, sorry. July 4th.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is what we've been talking about for the last couple of months, updating the truck restriction ordinance in the township. It repeals the previous ordinance, which was 2011-09 in its entirety. So I took all the streets that were mentioned in there and made some updates and changes to reflect current conditions at this point. Among the new, truly the new weight posted, truck posted streets is going to be Landis Road and Naperville Road. And those two streets have an issue with quarry truck traffic utilizing them. I did do a very brief engineering memorandum to basically justify the streets that have not had a previous engineering study so that they were enforceable and would survive a court challenge if they were ever challenged. And you have a copy of that in your packets too. Every one of them is basically justified primarily because of geometry. A truck cannot navigate turns on those roads without crossing the center line. Landis Road also has the issue of, with it being a very short stub of being truck restricted because it would trap vehicles on Naperville Road if you didn't also restrict that road. But every one of the roads has an engineering reason for having a truck restriction, but local deliveries are still permitted so that it doesn't have to go to the next threshold of talking about bonding roadways. So I request that you would make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2018-02 prohibiting trucks on certain roadways.
And just to be clear, this actually outlines all 11 delivery routes on those roadways. They're all itemized.
I actually do have a question. Are those the only two roadways that are being addressed in this ordinance?
No.
No.
Okay. Because there's an issue with Loush Road out here also.
Last roads that will be enforceable after this.
Okay.
It has been, there was a couple streets that were posted, but they were never codified in an ordinance.
Right.
And I also couldn't find an engineering study to justify them either. So what I went back is I took a couple of those roads that were posted but not in the ordinance, they're now in this ordinance.
Yeah.
And they would actually be, all of them would be Naperville Road and Landis Road, which are new. And then it would be Faust Lane, Keeler Avenue, Louse Road, and Kramer Mill Road are also part of the new ordinance at this point. And then the engineering study goes along with all those roadways.
We could list them all.
What's that?
I think it's a good idea.
We could list them.
The roadways that are in this ordinance in its entirety, Cocalico Creek Road, between North Reading Road and South Williamstown Road, which was in the previous ordinance. Ridge Avenue between Church Street and Glenwood Drive, that was in the previous ordinance. Glenwood Drive between South Williamstown Road and Valley View Drive, that was in the previous ordinance. Eversole Road between South Williamstown Road and Ridge Avenue, that was in the previous ordinance. Reed Road between South Williamstown Road and Ridge Avenue, that was in the previous ordinance. Kramer Mill between North Reading Road and Sharp Avenue, that's new. New as in this ordinance, although it was already posted. Louse Road between North Williamstown Road and Trouse Road, that's new in this ordinance but was previously posted. Naperville Road between Hahnstown Road and Fryersville Road, that is new. Landis Road between Naperville Road and Martin Road, that's new. Faust Lane between North Reading Road and West Church Street, that is new to this ordinance but was previously posted. And Keeler Avenue between North Reading Road and West Church Street, that is new in this ordinance but was previously posted. And then those are all no trucks, local delivery only. And then the other thing that was changed to Wabash Road between South Williamstown Road and South Lime Road has a 26,000 pound gross vehicle weight rating, as does House Hill Road and South Williamstown Road. That was based off of some of the local nursery delivery companies requesting a little bit more relief along those roadways. That was updated here too because the previous ordinance didn't reflect that additional sign. So those are the changes in the truck restriction ordinance.
Need a motion? Yeah, make a motion to adopt 2018-02.
I'll second the motion. Any comments or further questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, next thing you have, and I'll read the motion first, is a motion to approve the holding tank agreement for 250 Greenwich Road. It's basically Reinhold's VFW. This is one of our standard agreements recommended by our sewage enforcement officer. And it's basically to repair a malfunctioning system and the need for a new commercial system that they're looking to install.
What's your wishes?
You need a motion, I'll make a motion.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Any comments or questions?
How many gallon tanks are they, Scott?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I was looking to kind of see if that.
2,000.
Yeah.
Yep.
Two 1,000 gallon tanks.
2,000
I was
gallon
just gonna say,
tanks.
'cause okay. Thank you.
Any further questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. New business?
Chairman, when we met at our last meeting, I told you I was going to bring a proposal in from Premier Tree Services. In your packet is a proposal from Premier Tree Services to do work on the old Homestead Park forest that we own, approximately 7 acres. I did review, I've met a couple times now with Premier as well as with Chris Flory, and I both met with them. We walked the forest with them. I found the individual and the company to be very credible, and I really like the number they presented to us for the work we're going to do. What we're looking to do, first part of their proposal is $3,000, spending a full day with a bush grinding unit and basically going around and basically cutting down all the scrub and undergrowth in the forest. And like we talked last time, you have some pretty dense, especially at the tree line where there's a lot of sun from the fields that have grown, and you cannot see what is going on inside that wooded area. And when you go actually inside the wooded area, you walk around, you realize that we need to have a little more visibility inside that wooded area. It's also just a good form of maintenance, and it helps reduce the fire hazard there too. And the second part of the proposal is to remove all the ash trees in that forest and dead trees. The ash trees are infested with ash borer, and it seems counterintuitive, but the best way to save the ash tree population in the state is to take out all of the ash trees so that the borer dies off, and then start planting seedlings. And that's what a lot of, where the forest management and loggers are starting to do now, is just take those trees out. So while a number of them are infested, I'm not saying every 100% of them are infested, but our premiers recommend just taking them all out at this point. And that is what in County Lancaster already removed all the grass trees in all the county park systems. That's pretty much a standard at this point. That number he gave was for a 3-man crew, and it was $2,950 to do that work. So I'm just requesting some consideration of that proposal for $5,950 for the Premier Tree Service.
That's an NTE number, right?
What's that?
That's an NTE number?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's your wishes? Make a motion to go ahead with Premier.
Yeah, and I'll second that. That's,
Okay. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. LRTA plans for and policies and procedures.
I'll stop, and then I'll let Mr. Mitchell can, I'm sure we'll talk to you, but we had a very good first meeting with the school district, and Tony was present too, on the township side, as well as Sid Slagle, representing the planning committees. We had one member being Mr. Mitchell from zoning, one member being Sid from planning, Tony, and I representing township staff. We had a school board member, we had the administrator and the financial administrator from the school district representing the school district. We talked about in concept, the school district seems to be pretty much on board about doing something with it. It's just a matter of what it is at this point. They're definitely more focused on commercial and industrial. We did talk about, as a next step for the group, and this would be on the township side, prepare some options, and then have the working group meet one more time, basically with the goal of refining those options, and then those options would get taken to both boards, just to see initially if there's some buy-in on these different approaches to make sure everybody's on the same page. And then once we get feedback from the two boards, then the work group would meet again to kind of refine what we heard from the two boards, and then actually start presenting something formally to both boards. I don't know if that kind of sums it up.
Well, thank you, you didn't leave much. No, as a matter of fact, there was more. There was a lot of good exchange of ideas. School board came into that, really just focusing LRTA on a commercial district. They had talked about previously how, they didn't really expand their ideas out in any other direction. They had a good opportunity to look at the township zoning map. We had that laid out on a table, and we're able to really see where these commercial industrial zones are within the township boundaries. They had several good questions about that. We talked about the urban growth boundary, where that is in the township. You know, the initial part of the meeting was conceptual. Are they really, you know, on board with this, with where the UGI situation was last year, expanding it? And they, I think to a person, they said yes. There was no holding back there. They're definitely ready to move forward with that as well. They discussed their financial challenges. They talked about their pension plans, taking about twice the tax increase every year just to meet their pension obligations. The last several years, I think they went with a 1.5% tax increase. They stated that it was over 3% as their dollar value that they're putting into it. So they're fully on board with the idea of expanding the tax base as well. One curious comment came out, and I was scratching my head later. Ms. Ella Musser there, she said that she was in contact with the County Economic Development Council. She kind of skirted it a couple different times, but she really didn't elaborate what what her inquisition was about, or where she was headed with that. And I thought about that later. It was kind of interesting. Well, what was that all about? We talked about a lot of the different options for LERTA. There's the sky's the limit. There's municipalities all over the state just doing virtually any combination of it. In Lancaster County here, Manheim Borough is a full LERTA district. Mount Joy Borough is a LERTA district mainly along Main Street there. And in their paperwork that they prepared to put that together, each property is listed with a tax number and an address that is eligible. They don't use a map. They individualize it that much. Took a lot of effort, I think, to put that together. And of course, the city of Lancaster is a LERTA district. They use basically a three-tiered system. The commercial, industrial getting a bigger break than the residential, and then they've got all kinds of different qualifiers in there. One of the common qualifiers you see throughout the state is a $25,000 increase in assessment value. And we discussed that at the meeting as well. Ms. Musser said that with the current millage rate with the school district, a $25,000 tax assessment increase equals $467.
So that's a threshold.
That's what they use. That's what they're using. So, when you sit back and evaluate that number, $467, if it's say just for instance, a 5-year LERTA, if it was full value all 5 years, you're not even at $2,500 just on the school district side. But you add your county and township in there, maybe you're at $3,000 or a little more. So, the savings aren't significant. They're notable, but not significant on these smaller assessment increases. So, it behooves you to have a higher number, I guess, to start with. Somebody with a $10,000 increase, the money becomes a whole lot more marginable. And, we'd also discussed the assessment board. A $25,000 increase in assessment normally takes maybe $40,000 or $50,000 being spent. They don't correlate dollar for dollar. And, I would often like to see what their price sheet is at the assessment board, because any little change in building, you know, from a concrete floor to whatever, increases the assessment. They've got so many different qualifiers there that change the price of a square foot. And occasionally they mess that up. So, yeah, I think we left the meeting there with Wednesday, August 1st meeting again, 11 in the morning over at the school district building. At that point, I expect that we will be able to put together you know, a series of firm ideas of what the board's thinking. I think it needed this 2 weeks to kind of digest a little bit, you know, which way to head with this. You know, and I did have some examples of different LERTAs throughout the state. I've got copies for the board. I'll be happy to hand them out to you. Just reference material, I guess. It's a multi-tiered system. It's out in Western India.
Thank you.
If you want a copy, you can
Actually,
do it. But it's just an information sheet. There's no technical language there, but you know, it hits some basics. And the one other interesting one that we found was a municipality that has a 5-year LERTA, and 100% of the increase in assessment is written off all the first 5 years. There's no increase in taxes. It's a full 5-year LERTA. No 20, 40, 60, no graduated. It's full for 5 years. And, you know, I look at that as being super aggressive. And, you know, we talked about incorporating front-loading some of that into our proposals too. You know, Scott makes the point that there's a lot of development expenses right up front when you get started in this, the first year or two, and why not give a little extra bonus up front if you're looking at a short-range program. So that, you know, there's still a lot of discussion to happen, I would say.
So in summary, from what I'm hearing from you and Scott is, the school was amenable to, they're basically thinking the same way that we are right now in terms of potential LERTA in place going forward to facilitate, expedite the growth.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
You
that's
know,
good to hear.
there was
So you had alignment in philosophies.
there was never much of pushback from them. They were readily acceptable to the idea. And you know, with the inquisition with the county on the economic development, it was puzzling. I was just wondering, Mr. Fry, have you ever heard any inquiries from them about you know, what's the township doing, or any suggestions from them moving forward? Or?
Anything I can speak about that kind of development corporation is the fact that we just became members.
Right.
That was their push. They reached out to us to join, and we joined.
Well, but what's the school board's take on that? They, you know, do they have to join too? Is it a similar situation?
I don't know if they are actually our members or not. I mean, they do have government members. If they've been talking to them, they might actually be members too. It's not a big fee.
Yeah, well, it left me with some unanswered questions, I guess. Something for next time.
I mean, they have their purpose. I mean, if you got, especially on the industrial side, when you're trying to bring in industrial work there, that's their charge right now. The county is bringing industrial.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting question to basically pursue with Dr. Musser, because if they're going and looking to the Economic Development Board on their own to expedite some growth in the area, that's something we should be doing and coordinating with them and helping them with. So,
Well, just
if not leading in that area.
it struck me like, well, to the other three municipalities, have they been contacted, or were we left out, or are they just doing this on their own, or is it just a membership thing? Are we reading too much into this? I don't know.
I don't know, I would know, as I talked to Lisa Riggs there, and we talked about becoming members, and we did.
Yeah.
It's worth asking the
We'll
question.
get some clarity.
Yeah.
One question I would have is, if you don't mind, if you sat down with, get a good explanation of what transpired there, is this, I think you were leaning at one time, and I shouldn't say it that way, you talked about areas like Lancaster City where everything's low. Would that be in concert with Clean and Green? Is that person gonna get, that has Clean and Green, also gonna get a alert reduction? Because that would be a double whammy to the rest of the taxpayers that have to subsidize what the school board is losing.
Well,
Through Clean and Green.
You talking about our area or Lancaster City?
I'm saying in this area
Oh, in
here.
this
Yeah,
area.
because that's all this would apply to. We're not talking about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the concept that we heard from UGI was, they're spending money in the community, they're increasing the
Right.
tax base, and all that. And, well, I don't care whether somebody's in Clean and Green or not, if they're spending the money increasing the assessed value, well then, they're doing the same thing UGI is for the community, right?
Well, I guess you could look at it that way, but when you're in Clean and Green, you don't pay the taxes that you technically should. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
You get a reduced rate, so to speak, and that's forever. So long as that person that owns Clean and Green signs on it, they won't develop their land. If they develop their land, or if they sell it to somebody who winds up developing it, then the taxes get paid back.
7 years.
Yeah, right, yeah. So I was just, the school board in a Clean and Green thing, I look at it like the school board's losing money. Because what they should be getting, they're only getting 1/3 of it. And if that person or that firm who owns Clean and Green now also gets alerted thing, it could be significant after a while. That's just a question. I know you don't have the answer, I didn't say that.
No, I do have some part of that. Clean and Green's a statewide program. I mean, there's property in every county
I
throughout
understand,
Pennsylvania.
yeah, it's not
And
Lancaster County.
And it's actually United States program. I think it's every state east of the Mississippi has a Clean and Green program as well. So, I mean, it's a widely acknowledged situation. And to single individuals out with that, there's qualifiers with it, there's commitments with it. And,
I understand. yeah.
and
The one commitment I know is the one I just talked about,
Yeah.
you're not allowed to develop.
Yeah,
You sign on and say, I won't develop. For that, you get a tax rebate, you get a deduction.
right. Well, I mean, there's strings with it, just like anything else.
Sure.
I personally look at it, if somebody's going to increase the assessed value, they're putting people to work in our community. They're creating earned income tax through that, if nothing else. Why not? Why not? But what we found out is the dollar value, it has to be very significant.
Yeah, it's gotta be substantial.
It's got to be very significant. If it's just a $10,000 increase, it's not really relevant to whoever is looking for it.
Well, and
The
again,
tax saving's not that much.
right, and I'll get off my soapbox here. Again, it goes back to the point where you made that if that person brings economy into the area or creates jobs, a guy who puts an addition on his house doesn't do anything. I mean, that's a one-time, Joe Blow puts a garage on for $40,000 and I get a alerted thing. That doesn't help the township or the borough or anything else forever. It's a one-time deal, and that's all.
Well, it increases the
I was
assessment.
looking at it more from a thing where it's, injected into or addressed or directed at the businesses,
Yeah,
the guys that are here.
yeah.
And they all know that. I mean, it's,
Well, every community does something a
different.
little different. And I even found a municipality that gives LERTA for new housing.
yeah, that's what I
And
mean.
it through the school district. Well, you know, what you can assume there is they have a problem with decreasing enrollment, and they want people in to help increase the enrollment through the school system. You know, I think that's the logical conclusion there, but, you know, maybe there's something I was missing, I don't know. You know, they don't tell you why when you see what you
I would
find.
tend to agree with your line of thought.
Yeah. But, you know, I think that was one point that we had discussed as well in the meeting, and, you know, nobody's really in favor of new housing, alerted for new housing. That needs to be a standalone, and I think everybody was in agreement there.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Gating the wooded waste area to prevent illegal dumping, continued discussion.
This has really, over the last week, truly evolved into something I don't even know how to start. And so I figured I was gonna put my Tony Ramondo hat on for a moment. Great.
The gate? The chain.
So now I got my picture of what I had to take a picture of our trash can today, so we threw out all of the paper, like Swama recycling guides, because we're no longer allowed to recycle paper. So I figured I'd go ahead and just grab a picture of us throwing that out and kind of start this discussion a little bit. So we were surprised when Black Swama the other week started charging us a $25 a ton tipping fee for our paper recycling, and then we found a couple days later it's not, the reason is because it's all going to landfill now. So for the first part of our woody waste gating discussion is more just kind of more of a statement of fact. We don't recycle newsprint and paper products anymore. In fact, they've really reduced what they recycle in general. So we will make a reach out to Goods to pick up the one dumpster and take it out. And I have Lisa's work up some language that we'll post where the dumpster used to be, saying that newsprint and office paper and such is no longer a recyclable item and is to be put in the trash. There was a lot of pushback because none of the municipalities, no one knew this was coming. Langston newspaper now run a couple of articles because of all the letters to the editor and everything that has occurred with it. They are still doing cardboard. They only do plastic jugs with necks on them now and water bottles or soda bottles. And they do aluminum cans and food cans, and they still do glass. But they don't even pick up all the number 1 and number 2 plastics anymore, like yogurt containers, that stuff all goes in the trash now.
Gets burnt.
So, and environmentally, I won't go on my soapbox, but actually, when you look at the amount of energy it takes to recycle newsprint versus incinerate it for electricity, it's much more environmentally friendly to do what Black Swan is now proposing to do. Might not be politically correct, but it's actually what's better for the environment. So, with that said, that does change things around a little bit. So, for a time being, they're still picking up cardboard. But there's probably a good chance that cardboard will be the next thing that will go on the waste side of the recycling. And we could actually eventually get down to just being the metals that are recycled. There's no market for glass at all at this point, although glass doesn't incinerate well. And cardboard is also a pretty limited market too. So that was the first part. The second part is we did get Denver, the contractor that did the work for Denver Borough. They actually were on site the other day. I took some measurements. We're still waiting. They're a little slow getting numbers back to us. But we're looking to get numbers for what it's going to cost to keep the woody waste site and to put a card reader system in. We do need to update our recycling ordinance, especially now with all the changes that's what's going on. Our ordinance doesn't make any mention about the trash haulers being required to pick up cardboard. We're like curbside, they're required to pick it up with the other materials. They're basically required to pick up what the county recycles. That will include cardboard and items like that, so it should be in our ordinance. I do think, as we look at how we gate and lay out that site, that we need to put the cardboard container inside the gated area. And if somebody wants to still continue depositing that, they swipe their card, that they've now paid their fee to do that along with the woody waste. Quite frankly, if you have a trash hauler in the township, you should be able to put your cardboard curbside anyways. So that in many aspects, the dumpster is redundant at this point. There's no real need to have it, other than people just used to using it, but realistically, they could break their box up and put it with their recycled material at the curb, and it has to get picked up. The other thing to just throw out, just for a long-term discussion, I'll just throw it out here and then I'll duck, would be that at some point, this township will go into a single hauler mode for trash collection. And I would like to just get that discussion going for long term. I'm not saying now, I think we go forward with what we're doing with the woody waste and gating and everything. I also want to throw that out there so somebody doesn't say 2 years down the road, if we go single hauler, why did you gate this in the first place if we're just now going to be doing single hauler at that point?
And strategically,
Yeah,
we
because-
may be going down the single hauler route, whether we like it or not.
Right.
Yeah, it does save residents money. It does, that's actually kind of documented beyond debate at this point. I did do some internal polling. I know goods charges $75 a quarter. I know I pay for my trash right now $44 a quarter with my single hauler system. Now, it's a bigger municipality. It's much more efficient when you have much more dense development to do trash pickup. We did not get 44 in this township. It wouldn't even come close. I did look at what West Tenfield does, and that they're a little closer in population to East Cocalico. I say the land mass, they are $51 a quarter at this point. And there's a lot of unintended consequences. That's why a long-term discussion, we all of a sudden now take on trash billing. Something the town has never done. There's a startup cost doing that, where East and West Tenfield that already have that startup cost is already long gone and past. East Tenfield's been single hauler for 15 years, and I think West has been almost the same period of time. So that startup cost is not reflected in the numbers that they're charging now. They already bit that bullet a long time ago. So there'd be a lot to look at. It is a pretty complex thing. But it's just something to explore, because right now residents don't have places to deposit grass. That's our biggest illegal dumping item right now, is grass clippings. There's really no place for where to get grass clippings other than you basically throw it out as part of your bag trash at this point. You really don't have a place to go. And given what Black Swan was did, they probably want grass at this point because it helps with the incinerator. But a lot of people right now, they just take their grass clippings, our number one problem is they take grass clippings and they dump it at the line, the property line. A lot of times they dump it wherever there's a swale or a stream, and they can all just disappear. And we're dealing with a lot of grass clippings in detention basins, clogging up inlets and stuff like that. So we do have that unintended consequence. And then down the road, if it goes single hard, a lot of the municipalities then start doing leaf collection and woody waste collection curbside tip. And then that would reduce, but probably not eliminate, the need for a woody waste pile. So I'd just like to start just exploring that. We go forward with what we're doing with the woody waste, but I think just having that in the background for a long-term discussion would be appropriate. But the biggest thing is we're kind of, county's really reducing how much is getting recycled. My wife put trash out today, and then she said that recycling was about a third of what she used to put out. Because we actually were pretty good about all the paper and stuff going in there. We need a lot of yogurt and stuff like that. So that all that went out into the regular trash at this point.
And those little clamshell things you get, whatever, fruit in there, that's trash.
Right, even the plastic bags, they used to take them, and that's like number 2, plastic, and they won't take that anymore either. So So that's, I just want to give an update, there's no action next, hopefully by the next meeting I'll have well, what we can do for the community woody waste area, so.
Well, you know, I was up at, we're not the only area that has a problem. I was up at Martin's Mulch today, I cleaned up our daughter's yard, she had trees down and things like that. And there's a big sign up there, no treated lumber, no painted lumber, and there's a pile of both of them over in the corner. It's like, people just don't care. It's off their property, and that's, I'm done, you know, their attitude is just unreal.
However, they have a surveillance camera.
So, they don't work.
If that's ever enforced,
You didn't hear me say that.
well,
When John was still alive, I asked him about that. It's off the record. He said, that's just, they're trying to keep people straight.
sure, sure. So, Mr. Russell, I have a question. With the fencing off of the woody waste site, are we opening a possible Pandora's box for people to burn in the township? And when I mean burn bonfires?
People are already burning stuff in the township. It's pretty much the same enforcement issue. Like I said, we got illegal dumping, there's a lot of ways to get rid of leaves and grass and stuff like that, is burning.
Yeah, we need a drone.
One thing I would add, that's to pick up curbside, that would be phenomenal, that would be nice. One thing I will add,
But you,
over the years, I think.
goods will
we've
pick up
curbed-
grass, but you pay two something.
I think over the years between Harvey and myself, we've curbed the illegal burning to a minimum, but yes, you'll always have people burning. And Scott may have a burn barrel in his backyard, but he's not in my municipality, so he's safe. No, but I think you're right, I think we're gonna get people burning more stuff now that they can't put it out or recycle it or whatever.
Yeah, so I think that comes down to the single hauler discussion down the road. You basically provide a more legal avenue for people, like easier you make it for people to get rid of their waste. You can make it easier for them to get rid of their waste than to illegally burn it. They'll go down the road, they're going to go to what's the least amount of
At
effort.
least the resistance.
Yeah, or illegally dump it.
Right. So,
So, Mr. Fry, I need to correct you on one thing. Goods will come around except on a winter day where it gets a little windy or just a bit icy.
I have no control of goods, I'm sorry.
And then they tell you they'll come on Saturday
And they don't show up.
and they don't show up and it gets windy and milk bottles are blowing through the neighborhood and.
the funny thing is, if you have a single hauler system, you now are paying for, as a municipality, paying for that trash service, you actually have control of the hauler.
Okay, I just wanna see that in the wording when that
Yeah.
gets picked up per week, not that, well, we're just gonna skip a week,
Well,
is it?
there's, you talked about billing, there's, some places put it on your tax bill.
You can put it on a tax bill.
You don't need a separate, you could run it right through the tax bill.
There's a whole thing, and like I said, it's complex, and a lot of it, some municipalities do the municipal pay, some do it
Right.
once a year on the tax bill,
Right.
and there's a lot of different options to look at.
Yeah, I know Effort has, there's in there with their water and sewer, it's water and sewer and trash.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep, exactly.
And goods will give you a discount if you're a senior. It goes from 75 down to 60.
They still won't get it on a winter Friday.
Well, you shouldn't put it out. Blowing 900 mile an hour, you shouldn't put it out.
Did you not put it out?
I did
You had
not.
neighbors that did,
No, I
and they
didn't.
wanted your place.
We know everybody up there, you called and they said they're not coming, so we didn't put it out.
Unfortunately, you can't force your neighbors to call.
No, that's true.
That
true,
is
you
very
can't.
true.
And when it blows on your property, you have to deal with it.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry about that.
Well, it's,
You can't burn it.
Barbie will be up there. Well, no, he could, you're an agricultural, so you could put it at a fence row and light it up.
no.
Let's move on to traffic safety, the intersection North Muddy Creek and Route 6, needs to do that too.
I was gonna, Mr. Chair, I was gonna report that I didn't have anything to talk about, but there's not a lot, actually, I do have something here now to talk about.
Okay.
The other day, we actually, unbeknownst to us, the Foxbrook engineering team submitted to PennDOT about a month ago. We didn't get a copy, and we got PennDOT's comments back today. So I do actually have something to talk about this one. So they commented again about either a signal or a roundabout at that location. Since we hadn't seen the traffic study, I emailed John Schick, Edward too, to get a copy of it and to review it, so I don't have time to look at it, and to give comments, and I said I wanted him to focus on, in particular, the PennDOT's comments about the roundabout. I have warmed up to the idea of a roundabout on 272, to be totally honest with everybody here. PennDOT's now pulled it off on 322 on a roadway that has a lot more traffic than 272 does in the Hershey area. I don't think it would work at the Foxbrook entrance up at 897 because of grade issues, but it does potentially work there. And unlike a traffic signal, if we were to possibly go down the roundabout, PennDOT does put those on the tip for state funding. So what I asked John Schick to do was to do a hard look at the parts related to a roundabout, and then Eric Nard, who's the person we have to talk about anyway, but is the one that signed the review letter. And since he suggested a roundabout, it gives us the potential, that door's already open, we use the Foxbrook review letter from him as a discussion to talk about a roundabout at that location and getting it added to the tip. So that's kind of the game plan I would kind of think we would maybe want to go versus taking on a signal that PennDOT has already indicated they're not necessarily warm to that idea in the first place. We could put a roundabout there and address some of the safety issues that are occurring there at that location. So it's very early in the process, but we'll get Ratu's comments on the traffic study, and then we can reach out under the guise of, we got the review letter from PennDOT, we want to talk to them about that specific intersection.
Okay.
Scott, while you're in the early stages of talking about that, just crystal clear, find out who's gonna be in charge of maintaining that thing.
The roundabouts typically fall on the municipality just like a signal. So we would get, long-term, the biggest cost with a roundabout is the first-time construction. It's a lot cheaper 20 years from now to replace mountable curb than it is to replace 4 mat stars and a signal.
But at that intersection, you're gonna have some stormwater issues there.
We would have, I don't disagree, we would have stormwater issues there, there is a wetland there. That's all the more reason to get federal funding, it actually helps the cause for that because of the expenses.
I agree with you on getting the funding for it, but you gotta look, once that thing's up and running, you got a limited road crew now, when it snows 2 feet, and, there's storms, it's something, it's a baby you gotta maintain all the time,
Well, you'd have to do that if you had an inner signal there too. I mean, that's.
Yeah, but you're not gonna, well, to a limit,
The one road's a state road, which we haven't signed up an agility program for, the other one is ours, so.
to a certain extent, but yeah.
And I don't mean to disagree, but I have looked at roundabouts and I've looked at the maintenance costs. Our signals are expensive to maintain.
Oh,
Between the electricity, the annual inspections that we have to have with CMI doing, almost every time there's an inspection, something needs to be repaired on one of our signals. Roundabouts really are, the biggest cost of the roundabout is its initial expense. After that, they become pretty good to have. And you do have replacement costs, but a signal's got a 20-year life, a roundabout, you're going to 20 years, you're going to have to do patching of all the mountable curb.
Yeah, that's another good question. What do they figure? You saying 20 to 25?
I would just guess, mountable curb, you look at mountable curbs at most intersections, you look at what a typical intersection, the one on, a good example would be Denver and Pearl Harbor Boulevard, that was 1999 when that was installed, so we're almost 20 years later, it's looking kind of dated at this point. Certainly need Benderson to come in and blow that intersection up at this point. So I'd say you probably get a 20-year cycle of it before you got to do something.
Okay.
Moving on, working group strategy related to fire and EMS service.
Well, we kind of already talked about that. We talked about the discussions that have been occurring, and there are on the EMS side, the fire side there's concerns, but on the EMS side right now, it is very difficult to control costs when you're doing any BLS services. And the Reamstown EMS is willing to talk to its neighbors. I don't want to necessarily go into too much detail beyond that. You do have a neighboring EMS that's willing to talk about possibly merging and consolidating, and we're just going to start those initial discussions. But the goal would be to bring ALS and transport services in order to make the numbers work better. And so that is the stage we're at. There more than likely will be a meeting with the other entity next week, if we can get a date that's agreed upon. And we can look at how we can start going down those roads. We've already had discussions also with WellSpan at this point. And it's just a matter of what can we do to improve the bottom line, but the bottom line is very dire, depending purely on basic life-saving services, transports, ELS services. We need to be doing all the services from an efficiency and billing perspective.
Can I add to that? I think what's important too, from a public perspective, is when we did have the meeting, it was an excellent meeting with EMS, and we were completely in alignment as to what needs to happen going forward. So that was good. We weren't coming at it from completely opposite approaches. We weren't completely on opposite ends of the scale. So from the very first minute of the meeting, we were in complete alignment in terms of what has to happen now. So I thought that was very important for the public to know.
And then the other thing that Scott Aki did request is he actually requested, and I didn't put this in a motion, I wanted to talk through it with you, but I actually probably think we're going to need a motion tonight thinking about what he asked for. He just wanted the board to acknowledge that basically that $96,000 is really removed from the budget. And the reason he wants that acknowledgement is he feels there's a perception among the fire community that that $96,000 is still there for him to use, and we're just holding out, or he just wants acknowledgement that that has been withdrawn. He's not fighting, he's not upset, he just wants to be just acknowledged that that is not available at this time.
He's just asking we formally adopt.
I make a motion.
And I'll second that.
Any comments or questions?
Now, who wants this acknowledged?
The Reamstown EMS.
All right.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried, thank you.
Okay. Next you have is the Stony Point sidewalk waiver. Again, this is just to get guidance. This one's not an action item. I don't have anything for you to take action on. We did meet with, I talked with Landmark last week, and I said in the email to you that they're willing to make a contribution of $3,000 to $4,000. I would recommend we ask for $4,000, waiving the sidewalk requirements, and then the township will install the trail system at a later date, probably as part of the Stony Point Park project. Once we move forward with that, we'll tie it into the grant application with the state. That number would more than cover the material and equipment costs for us to put it in. We would basically replace 400 feet of sidewalk with 600 feet of trail. And I ran some numbers with the skid loader rental and probably buying some stone dust to incorporate with millings, because the millings are a little rough, and so you still need to level it out a little bit. We're looking at probably about $3,000 in materials and cost. What Landmark is requesting from us is, besides us kind of writing the waiver form, which I can do, that's not a big deal, they're looking at some sort of identification, since they're not going to be building it what was originally in the approved plan, so that residents don't come back on them saying that they snuck one in or tried sticking one in. That was basically, this was requested by the township. I don't think that's to be honest with you, a big deal. We would actually let them write the language of it. I'd probably be a one-page identification saying that, you know, the town, this was done in concert with the township and made a change to the plans and so they're just looking for a little bit more at that point from us.
I gotta ask the question, is there concern that maybe they didn't tell everybody up front that there's gonna be a walkway there, and now they're worried that when we put it in, people come in and say, I bought that house not knowing there's gonna be this and thus there? Is that the reason they want that, or what?
Well, I think it's just more that it's, there's a perception in that community right now that Landmark is taking shortcuts, and some of it's earned and some of it's not. And this just would appear that they're getting out of having to put sidewalk, and really, the town's just requesting that they do that for many different
That's
reasons.
fine, I understand it now.
Yeah, so I think that's more what's driving the boat, is they don't want to be appeared, you know, the project accepted and they're out, and this is just another thing that Landmark was trying to skip town with.
Well, I said that because years ago, a developer came in, doesn't matter who it was, but they promised a park, and that park never came, and people moved into that area thinking they were getting a park, and it didn't happen, and they came in here with pitchforks and wanted to know what's going on, you know, so that was my concern, that they did or didn't promise these people something.
Yeah, so I just want to, as long as you feel I'm heading in the right direction, the next step will be, I'll get back to Landmark, we'll start the waiver process, we'll get identification agreement, you probably have that as an action item for the next meeting.
Okay. Scott, I think you want to clarify for the record that they did really come in with pitchforks, right, Doug?
Short of it.
Sure, yeah.
They checked them at the door.
They were hot, yeah.
Okay, beautification strategy.
So for item number one, the police department signage, what I'd like to do with that one is, again, Chief has the new sign down below. Tony's gonna go check on the electric while it's raining personally. For the sign up at 272, so what I'd like to do is, I think that one we can cross off the list and remove that from the list, okay? Chief, one of the things is when the new car comes in, now that I think about it, I think it'd be kind of nice getting a couple of photos of the new car next to the new sign. Okay? And probably sending that over to
Alice.
Oh,
Happy to.
can you do that, Alice?
We like people in photos too. I mean, you
I
know,
will
that's
get
what
you a couple.
attracts attention. So the chief or a
Line some people up
designee.
for you. Yeah, get
You're
your
taking Preston's place, huh?
No,
Oh.
definitely not.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Alice.
Yeah. Just give me a call when you want something.
Okay. I'd like to table the township branding for today. There's a couple of things that I'm pulling together for another presentation on some ideas that other municipalities have done. So I'll continue with that action item, but I just want to table that for now. Okay.
Can we, no, I want to propose a compromise in the meeting minute format and the video meeting. I talked to our IT person. The digital format of that camera is international. Anything that you need to change it from one format to the other, you can get it off the internet, he said, for free. So he said, really, it costs for the little chip card in there, basically.
Yeah, the cost of that equipment is, it's the SD card where any SD card with 2 or 3 gigs of space is $25 now.
Yeah, and you would like the minutes to be more like an outline, so,
That's, yeah.
yeah, so if the minutes are an outline, and if a person has a question, they can look at the video on YouTube, and we'd be perceived to be more open.
Yeah,
I don't-
it's just, yeah, I'm going strictly by what the state has recommended. We have a former township manager sitting in the audience, and I don't want to put her on the spot, but when I read meeting minutes, they're 7 or 8, 6, 7, 8 pages long. To me, it's out of hand. I just think it's an awful lot of work for that lady over there to sit there and be afraid that she's gonna miss something, because Alan wants one way, Romeo wants it another way, and I want it another way, and she's between a rock and a hard place in plain English. It's not fair to Lisa, it really isn't. The state law says it only has to show certain things, and that's all I'm proposing. Just trying to stay with what the state has recommended and what the law says.
The state actually recommends the less minutes, the better.
Thank you. Thank you.
And, you know, if someone, you know, comes to your meeting and wants to discuss something,
Sure.
a synopsis of that, not word for word,
Right.
a general synopsis, your motions, and your discussion.
Discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, but not word for word.
Well-
Generalities.
Thank you.
Well, just for clarification, what the state has outlined in their ordinance is very clearly that in 706, they're giving all municipalities the guidelines of the legally required minimum for meeting minutes. Okay, just so we're clear. So again, 706 gives you the absolute legal minimums you must provide in your meeting minutes.
Right.
There are no legal maximums.
No.
So what we're really discussing at this point comes down to philosophy. It comes down to the philosophy of what do we believe our philosophy as East Cocalico is going to be in terms of the intent of these meeting minutes. Okay? I come from a professional background where the intent of the meeting minutes in all meetings was very simply and very clearly to be a representation of the meeting such that someone in the future could read the minutes, look at those minutes, and have a very good understanding of the tone of the meeting, what was decided at the meeting, what was discussed at the meeting, and without any vagueness or ambiguity in there, or limited vagueness or ambiguity, okay? I hear what you're saying, Doug, about the length of the meeting minutes, but the way I look at these meeting minutes now and the way they're worded in there, we just have a lot going on right now. There's a tremendous
There's a
amount of
lot
work
of fluff.
being...
There's a lot of fluff in it.
Well,
There really is.
there's a lot of work being done behind the scenes right now, and that's why these meetings are starting to take longer, and there's so much going on. So it comes down to philosophy. It really comes down to what do we as East Cocalico want to do, and what is the intent of our meeting minutes? Now, I like Alan's idea. I like Alan's idea a lot because, quite frankly, we could go to the legal limit, we could go to the legal minimum, right, on these meeting minutes. And what we do is, as a municipality, we just start videotaping all our meetings. It actually facilitates any right to know in terms of what was said at a meeting or anything, because all you're doing at that point is Lisa's just sending out a link to YouTube, and that individual goes out to YouTube and looks at the video, right?
I'm not arguing.
Yeah, so that's probably the easier way to do it, and maybe, and to Alan's point, maybe it's, you know, our meeting minutes are really shortened up, and they just have the link there that's handed out to the public of, you know, feel free to go out and take a look at the meeting in its entirety, and what was said.
And as of now, it's free, as long as it's free, we can do it. If it ends up costing money, we can start
We can change
change
it.
it then.
Yeah.
Like I said, I know I used the term 8 pages, that happened a couple times, but most of them are 5, 6, 7 pages long. I've checked with other places, and I left that sheet over in my office, but there's places that don't even record the minutes. There's townships, and I call every township in this county, and I'm not gonna name them because I'll have it wrong, but I have it written down over there. And I got halfway through this process, and I thought, well, you dummy. I called about videotaping and recording at the same time. And there's 5 or 6 that don't even record them. They just have a lady sitting there, or a gentleman, he's taking notes, and that's their minutes. There's no recording to go over, there's no nothing. So, you know, yeah, we're probably a hybrid, but when I see 6, 7, 8 pages, it's way over. It's
I
over.
have Robert's Rules of Order, and I have the one for dummies, which I can understand. And basically what they're saying, as far as minutes, is write down what was did, not all that was said.
Right.
So if you have, when it started, who made the motion, who seconded the motion, I mean, with this, like you said, you follow a link up,
Right.
you're good.
That's exactly right.
So-
And that's all I was
That's what I
saying.
was saying. You
Yeah, you want,
generalize the person that was, you say who was there and what they discussed, but not word for word.
Yeah, and so we're clear in terms of Lisa's time too, because now I've done this enough time, Doug, and Alan, it's, quite frankly, I don't think it takes me more than 5 minutes, because all it is I take the SD card out of the camera, I plug it into the computer, I log into YouTube, I hit upload, I let it run in the evening, I get up in the morning with a cup of coffee, and it just says right there, publish. You hit publish, you're done, and you just pull it out.
Yeah, for that, that's fine. I'm just saying these
Yeah.
minutes don't need to be
Right, so I'm,
3 double-sided pages. I don't have to.
so,
Do
I'm sorry, go ahead.
we have a compromise that will shorten the minutes and videotape the meeting?
I'd like to shorten the minutes of what Brian, and he suggested it, and the state has said what the bare minimum is, and that's all we need. That, it doesn't matter that Doug actually said this or that or thus, or the weather was great, or the snowed outside, that has nothing to do with it. What was proposed, who first, who made the motion, who seconded it, 3-0, 2-1, whatever, move on, next question.
right.
You okay, videotape?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we formally, as a municipality, we formally start videotaping.
Make the minutes shorter. Okay.
So the only thing we need to do then is, I can still use my equipment for now, but
Next,
I think for $200 or $250 or less, I can find that equipment on.
okay, good. So can we take this off and?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Good, praise God.
Make a motion.
Thank you.
Mr. Fry, a few comments if I may.
I'll make a motion that we adopt it as presented.
Okay, I'll second the motion.
Yep.
Or you want to second it?
No, it's okay, you say.
Okay.
Okay.
Any questions or comments?
Yes.
What?